Yeah, I don't want to kind of keep talking, I know there's much more people to follow me. Important thing, guys, decision-making factors, right? I mean, there are the emotions and there is the logic. What I find key in this is, you see these four things, the product, price, place, and promotion. That's the age-old marketing stuff, right? Anybody who's gone to any kind of marketing class will have learned this stuff, right? But the fact is, that's old-fashioned. But that old-fashioned stuff is important because you know what that is? Anybody have a clue? One word for those four P's? It's about branding. And what does branding do? Branding builds trust. And trust is money. That's where the money is. Simple enough. There's nothing else to it. Okay, if you have that trust built up, people buy it, people brand it, and that's what it comes down to. So, next thing, sales cycle. As I said, sales cycles are critical because you might think that you have this idea, you have it figured out, you're going to go sell, but it could take 18 months. In my case, when I sold my first software package, it took me 18 months because I was a nobody. I started my own shop, Fortune Line Business Consulting, and I was going to go sell service management software. 18 months of going back to the same guy, calling me 3 times a week. And guess what? In those 18 months, I was exhausted. But I never realized it. Somebody told me, what did you try to do? You tried to sell a service ERP, it takes 18 months. I said, yeah, I realized that. I wish you would have met me before. Sales cycles are important, guys. You need to understand, how much of burn rate you need to carry. You know what a burn rate is for an average Alpharetta family? $4,000 to $5,000 a month. You're going to burn away while you're doing your enterprising stints. Okay, so if you're at 30s and if you think that you're going to do this, figure out $5,000 a month where it is going to come from. Okay, before you don that hat, because that's just the burn rate. You're going to burn $5,000 a month. In 1 year, it's about $60,000 to $70,000 of hard-earned cash that you saved up for your children's education, maybe. So make sure that you think hard, because the sales cycle will drag you down. And nobody has a clue what a sales cycle is when you first start out. Like just we saw in the beginning of this thing, key important thing. Make sure you know what factors drive your sales cycle. Ask people around, what is it going to take me to make my first sell? Okay, when you go to this meeting, before you go to a business, ask people, how much time does it take you to sell an insurance for $1,500? A $1,500 insurance plan you think should not be a difficult thing to do. It might take you 3 months, okay, before the customer trusts you to buy that, if you haven't done the homework. Some age-old concept, guys, sales funnel. How many of you guys have heard the sales funnel terminology? Anybody heard of the sales funnel? Okay, so for those who haven't heard, important concept, okay? This is all about numbers. And when it comes down to sales, it's a numbers game. If you have to take one thing away from here today, make sure you take away the fact that sales is a numbers game. What I mean by numbers game is, it starts off by prospecting. Then it goes on to your evaluating the opportunities, going on to analyzing the needs, going down to value prop, and then finally coming down to writing proposals and then presenting your benefits. There you go. That's your sales funnel. Okay. Any sales class you go to, you'll find this. Okay. But the key thing I bring this up is because this doesn't get old-fashioned. It is not going to go out of fashion. It's going to be there regardless of where you are in your sales cycle. Okay. So make sure that if anywhere else after this class, you can say that you are doing the sales funnel now. And if you kind of notice it, it's the 4 steps. The 4 steps, like I said, it's no different. Many companies have now adapted it and they call it the sales stage. Why is the funnel important? You know why the funnel is important? Because you only have so much time to close a deal. And if you don't categorize those items correctly, you might be spending time on activities that are not going to get you those sales at the end of the month or the quarter. And that's why it's important to know where your sales funnel is. Where is your prospect on that sales cycle? Are they in the awareness phase? Are you just figuring it out? If you don't know that, you're going to fail. So make sure that you put the probabilities down based upon your understanding. It's key important thing. You know how much time a sales guy actually spends on sales? 2 hours. That's it a day. That's it. The rest of 80% of his time is wasted on admin stuff. Anybody have Salesforce.com? That's what they do. They fill up the Salesforce.com, data so that the manager knows what the guy is doing in the field. Okay, things are a lot different now. In the digital marketing space, there's a lot of different things happening, guys, okay? They don't do the old-fashioned prospecting, going to trade shows across the country and partying for 5 days, okay? They do it online now, right? And online marketing is a different world altogether. I'm by no means a master at this, but I know for a fact that at the beginning, they do the same stuff. They attract customers, by kind of making sure that the word is out there. You go out and keep them engaged through blogs and newsletters and other fun stuff. You convert them at some point, you retain them, and hopefully, they become your strongest advocates. Okay? So So again, this is a digital marketing piece. There's a lot of pictures and books out there you can kind of grab. I don't want to spend much time on it. The thing that was important for me that I found out was that your marketing piece, it used to be a very small piece, and the sales guy had to do a lot of grunt work. He had to go out to the customer, meet with them, do the talking, sell them the stuff, okay? It's not like that anymore. A lot of stuff is done online, right? So marketing has taken a different role. Everybody who goes and buys anything now compares pricing on Google. How many of you have tried Priceline, right? So all that stuff is done in the marketing world. So the marketing guy's job is doubled and tripled, whereas the sales guy's job is much easier now. Oh, just tell me where to go sell. I will go sell. And that's where the analytics piece comes in, right? So, anyway, so keep that in mind. If you're going to start a business, where is that marketing budget going to come from and how are you going to do your sales? Last things, there are two topics before we close the discussion. Customer retention. It's easy to get customers, even harder to keep them. Really hard to keep them. You know why it's hard to keep customers? Because you've got all this traffic coming at you from every different angle. There's competition, there's all kinds of stuff happening around you, The other thing is, why do you think you got the sale in the first place? Trust, right? Because they trusted you. Do you think you can retain the same trust for year over year over year over year without doing anything? No, you have to actually keep them engaged. Because if you don't keep them engaged, that trust is going to be eroded. If you lose that trust, no more customer. And that trust can be eroded by anything. It could be eroded by somebody in your organization not talking right to your customer because the way you dressed that morning, because you just didn't talk right to them. 70% of your customers, 60 to 70% are lost because of service issues. When you say service issues, it's not like somebody did something bad to them. It's just the perception of the interaction didn't go up to the expectations. That's why it's more difficult. So that's where the statistics are, and statistics don't lie. We are in the data forum, right? We talk about data. These are the top 10 reasons. Customer retention is hard work. Anybody had a story about losing a big customer, and saying, oh no, anybody had any situation of customer loss at all in their professional lives? Anybody lost a customer yet? You lost? How did that make you feel?
Sad, terrible sad, right?
Do you see there's any reason that you can take that kind of like attribute it to one of them, Mahesh?
Yes, absolutely. I think, delivery, failure to deliver.
Failure to deliver.
Whatever you commit to the customer before you sell them, and if you don't deliver it, that commitment is gone.
There you go, failure to deliver, right? And what stage does that go to? Needs analysis and needs awareness, right? So again, spend a lot more time. You think you got it, you do not have it. It needs a lot of practice, and you do practice over and over again, and you finesse it over a period of time. Customer retention, do's and don'ts, follow through, simple stuff. When the customer calls, pick up the phone, drop what you got, call them back. At least have a window of 24 hours. In the digital world, it's hard to kind of say, what people expect. I just texted you, I WhatsApped you, I emailed you. There's so many means of communications now, right? So customers expect a lot more faster response. Do you think it's fast to call the customer at the end of the day? It's harder today because they expected you to kind of like call in 2 hours or 3 hours nowadays. It's getting unreal, customers' expectations right now, okay? But try to kind of set expectations right and try to meet them. Retention is a team effort. You can't do it alone. You have to have a backup. Somebody in your team has to kind of make sure it's not a sales function's job alone to kind of retain customers, okay? Everybody owns the customer. That's important. How do you build that trust? I keep telling you, okay? Make sure that you have KPIs and dashboards. Communicate back to them. Tell the customer, here's what I promised you, here's what I delivered. It's very important to keep reminding them. Remember the time that I met you 6 months back, I told you this is what I'm going to give you, here's what I gave you. It's important to close that loop. If you don't close that loop, again, as I said, a red flag there. There's much more means to kind of keep them engaged. There's customer events, dialogues, surveys, a whole bunch of things today. So the last thing you should tell me is, oh, I haven't communicated with my customer because I don't have the time or the abilities to do that. Last thing, last slide. Thank you for putting up with me. The word value, right? I love the word value because we keep on talking about this value stuff, right? And then you have EVA models. Anybody heard of EVA? Economic value added models. There's a whole books written about economic value added, okay? So go check it out. But this is what it comes down to. When a successful sale is done, value is delivered. And what do you mean by that? This is the basic stuff. You made the customer's life easier because you saved them time. You made their life much more risk aware. So that's another thing. You make them motivated. What do you mean by motivation? Because either they were trying to run away from something or run towards something. And you gave them something to run to or run away from. That's motivation right there, okay? You met that. And the brand, the fact that, you wear a nice watch, you make them feel and look good, that's valuable to them. Because what does it kind of stroke? It strokes vanity, right? Because vanity makes me feel look good. I feel, that's a motivation factor. So those are some of the values that are created: ROIs, time, risk, motivation, and brand. Thank you guys for picking up again, and I appreciate your time. Any questions? Yes.
One comment that I have, I think we talked about entire sales cycle, how to sell, what learnings. One thing in the digital era that I would like to share is social selling. Social selling is an aspect that probably was not part of this, but it's very important because if you are starting a business, look at it, what we have done. In last 10 years, Spirit and the foundation and the organizers have been showcasing this event on LinkedIn. How many of you have shared that you are visiting PUC? How many of you have talked about it? Right? If you want to generate or you want to start a business, you should be talking about it, that you're coming to this event. Then generate your ideas and talk about your product. Share that with every one of you. How many of you have met and connected during last 4-5 hours and connected on LinkedIn? These are the important things from social selling perspective.
Thank you very much. That's a very valid point. And let me add a little bit of an adder to that. I had never posted anything on LinkedIn. I was the first adapter to LinkedIn way back in 2005 because one of my MBA student mates actually told me about it. It's been 10 years of doing this and never posted anything. And he sent me a really nice picture and I posted it. Over 3 days, I've got like 1,200 hits. So thank you very much. I'm really humbled, So yeah, I'm learning still.
That matters. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys, on the sales cycle for the sales guy? Yes.
Well, it's actually a question of two things. So I have two examples, and I'd like to know if they're technical enough, or will you just term them as strategical sales? So example one, you're trying to fix an appointment with a client, and you just tell them that. Thank you. You're trying to set up an appointment with your client. You tell them that you're very busy and you have been having to deal with a lot of customers when you actually have no or little less customers, and you just tell them, you just create a wait line for them, basically. That's example number one. Example number two would be, you did mention about doing a sales with your family, friends, relatives. In certain scenarios, if there's a price for your item, you just overprice them because you know your family or friends or dear ones are going to ask for a discount at the end. So I'm just trying to know if you would grade them as being very unethical, professional, or just a strategical sale.
That's a good question, guys, and it's a loaded question, right? I mean, and it goes back to the sales cycle. Anybody wants to get a shot at it? Thank you for asking that question, by the way. It's borderline manipulation, okay? Manipulation and motivation are two different things, all right? And if there is a book, I'm not going to give you the long answer. The short answer is there's a book by Zig Ziglar, Selling 101, and he talks really well about motivation and manipulation, okay? And manipulation is bad, motivation is good, right? So the answer is something that's going to keep you at night and thinking that maybe I should have done it, don't do it. Simple, Yeah, you want them to kind of talk highly about you, and if that's not going to make you feel good at the end, does that help you? Does that answer your question? But go check out Selling 101 by Zig Ziglar. I mean, it's a great book, short run, short read, okay? Yes?
Nikhil, one quick point. We always hear the maxim, customer is always right. And there is truth to that maxim. You never tell the customer that you are wrong. You never ever do that. But is customer always right? Now the thing to understand is, everything that comes out of the customer's mouth may or may not be the right thing. But how do you address it? How do you handle it? Your job as a salesperson is to educate the customer, make him aware of all the circumstances so that you are able to deliver what his expectations are and not just say yes to everything and say customer is always right. That's what I learned in my marketing, and that's what it is. No, that's going to be actually having a reverse result.
Yes, no, I agree. I think that's a very valid point, Samir, okay? You have to be very careful of the age customers are right, especially in today's day, because you know what? Everything is recorded. It's a picture. And the other thing is, an average American is on camera 85 times a day, if you did not know that already. 85 times a day. So chances are, whatever you said is going to be captured somewhere. So be extremely careful, how you kind of come across and what you phrase. I just remember a situation back in the medical days. I told a nurse, in Savannah, that I'll take care of the situation. What she thought was I was going to give a free $25,000 probe. And I ended up giving a probe because I left a voicemail that said, I'll take care of your situation. What I meant was I would address it with you at some point. But that voicemail was not recorded and it said, cost $25,000, guys. So be careful with the customer's right at age. Okay? And again, customers are no different. They're people like us, right? Are we always right? Not really. You know you're not right. But you want to insist that we are right because that's vanity, that's pride. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Hi, thanks for the lovely presentation. It was like going back to the school. When we look at our portfolio companies, when we meet up with the teams, a lot of these things, being a startup, they don't really follow it. So, as an consultant, what are the things we should be looking at to have these kind of courses or seminars conducted when we are at a startup space in a company? Because these things are very important, but then they're not followed, and then of course they reflect some numbers and the business. So what do you suggest?
So let me make sure I understood your question. Okay, thanks for asking the question. So what you're saying is how can we facilitate this kind of training courses for startups so that they get to practice more of this, correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah. It's a hard lesson. I mean, as I said, an entrepreneur, the last thing he wants to know is a course on sales training.
Right.
Because they feel I've got this. So you're really kind of like stroking their pride. So you're walking on eggshells. When you approach a new entrepreneur and say, you need training in sales. What? Sales stuff? It's easy stuff, man. No, it's not. It's hard stuff. I don't have a right answer for that, honestly. How? Because most of the time, within 6 months to a year, they learn like I did, and I had to go back to the basics. I took a job as a sales guy later after having failed a business. So as an investment banker, I know it's a tough thing to do. I guess you make it a clause that you do get, because I know when we sign agreements, in Siemens with our customers to change their behavior, especially in the medical business where we know customers abuse equipment, we make sure that they take those classes as a part of those funding things. So if you build it, I would love to, because I would love to come to Singapore and do these classes.
Great, we plan one soon.
Thank you.
Wanted to share on that note. Basically, so nowadays, a lot of companies, they are involving application engineers who are like purely technical, but they are sending them also for the sales training. Because what happens is if you are trying to talk to customers, even the way you communicate, adopting to the communication styles as well, there are a lot of different factors that are involved in the sales process. And it's very important for those companies that everybody is involved and they're on the same page.
Did you hear that? That was a great comment. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. Excuse me. Is there somebody else?
See, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I wanted to respond to the gentleman's question. If you're starting any business whatsoever, find a mentor. I think a mentor can help you deal with all kinds of problems, not just the stage, but there are so many challenges. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my business 2 years back, and I have mentors. And today I'm successful, and a lot of people closed down their business like first year. I think it's very important to have a mentor, or at least multiple mentors, that you can be open and you can be as transparent as possible. I think that's very critical for success.
That's a good point. Just to add up to that, what I did was it was all about going myself, because I wanted to quit a corporate job. I had a really nice job, my medicals were paid for, great home office job, everything was going great. The reason I quit, I wanted to be myself. When you want to be by yourself, you're rebellious in some sort. So you get it, you don't need that. That's why you don't need mentors, because you feel that you understand this better. Okay, so that's why you shun away mentors. You bury your head in the sand. What I would like, what Jim said was it's a team approach, guys. Did you know racing is a team sport? The guy who's driving on the track, it's a team sport, and for entrepreneurs, I think the message is you're absolutely right. It's a team sport. You need to kind of go get a good team. Go find a good accountant, go find a good lawyer. That's the first important thing. You need to have a good lawyer. So those things, I think it's a team effort, and of course, go find somebody that you can look up to as a mentor, And it's too hard, you're sometimes too proud to do that. You stand here and say sorry. And yeah, you were saying something about the technical folks getting sales training. So homework for everybody that did not raise their hands today. Go Google sales training on YouTube and watch a 5-minute video, just a 5-minute video. I'm not going to say anything extraordinary. Selling 101 is a really good book. Zig Ziglar, I mean, I can't say any high things. So how many of you guys have heard about Zig Ziglar? You know, yes, absolutely. So, I mean, you know, phenomenal stuff. There's podcasts and everything. But take a small book, read it, make sure that you spend that time well. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
I know, there are a lot of moving parts and dynamics to be a successful entrepreneur. But having come from Indian values, Indian culture, Indian education system, do you think there are any advantages or challenges, or it doesn't matter?
Thank you for asking the question, Mandar. So the question was, does being from an Indian background or an Indian culture, have any advantages or disadvantages? Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. For the longest time in the history, I think people did business with this elementary stuff. I know somebody has a need, I can meet it. I don't think there's any special advantage or disadvantage. The only thing I can say I had an advantage personally was because I came from a business family. My dad is 85. He still owns a bed and breakfast place. He's a serial entrepreneur, and through his mistakes, I learned that strategy is important, because he was one of those short-ended guys that he would get into a business and then, not working, I'm going to go and do something else. I learned from that sticking to one business that you do is important. So I don't think particularly culture or race, it doesn't make any difference. I think it's across the board. But what environment you grow in sometimes makes you more averse to risk or more proposed to taking risk. The fact that, both me and my wife, both of us come from business families. So it allowed us to kind of know and understand and expect. So there are certain communities within the Indian families that have this kind of mindset that is more prone to doing businesses versus taking education and pursuing that. But you can't stereotype it. I mean, I've had Gujarati friends, who have stuck to corporate jobs and don't want to jump off the ship, and then I've had Marathi friends, who have jumped off the ship and started more successful businesses. So, no, I don't think there is an advantage or disadvantage. But what you put through your children or what your environment that you create around yourself can definitely, make that environment. So I'm trying to get my daughter to kind of get motivated. She's here, practically here.
I would like to share one thing that came to my mind. Cultural things definitely influence us, and the only thing is, we always have to think in the local terms. Like some of the corporate, like especially one of the companies that I used to work, they always used to say local worldwide. They're a global company, but they think locally. Act globally, but think locally. And that's very critical. So even the Chinese president visiting the US will have to always follow the ethics or the cultural things, values that Americans have. Same thing when they go to China, they have to still do. So we are all in the sales roles, influencing each other, building rapport. It's key part of it. Whether your title says you are a salesperson or not, this is an integral part of our life. We are all salespeople. Kids trying to convince parents, parents trying to convince kids. It's a sales job. We're all in the sales profession, in that sense.
Thank you guys. Any other?
Yeah.
Of course.
One of the things you said earlier is validating the prospects. And you said that the customer can pay for it or not. How do you identify that?
Very simple. Ask them, do you have the money?
Show me the money.
No, it's not rude, guys. I mean, we have to kind of be realistic.